this project, we showcase the unique design of these StormDuo beads and just how fun they are to use, and putting them in sort of different directions, and how to work with them, and how they create this really beautiful organic flowing look that can almost become very lacy. I've also paired it with some pearls and a beautiful clasp guarding clasp. If you want to check out this project, check out the material list below, gather everything you need, and then we'll get started. We're going to start here with a Stop Bead and a big old pile of StormDuos. So I'm going to take my Stop Bead here and just bring that towards the end of my thread. I want it to be towards the end, but give it just a few inches here. And take my needle and thread through that bead again, so that my thread kind of loops around the outside of the bead. And as it loops around the outside, you'll see that that kind of holds the bead in place. And all this bead does is just kind of, it just provides a stop point so that your beads, the beads that you work with here, don't fall off. Very important. You don't want your beads to fall off as you work with them. So we add that little stop bead. So I'm going to start picking up my StormDuos, and these StormDuos are going to create like a little zipper pattern where they interlock with each other and they form the backbone of my bracelet. I want to pick the StormDuos up in the same direction each time. And it's a little bit hard to see here on the screen, but with the StormDuos, let's see if it's a little easier to see here. With the StormDuos here, you're going to have, they look like a little bird to me. And they've got, when you hold it up and down like this, you'll see at the top, he's got like a little beak going off to the right. And at the bottom, he has a little tail going off to the left. So it's just a mirror image of each other. And if I flip it around, his beak is going off to the left, his little tail is going off to the right. So they're exactly the same on each side, just a mirror image. Now, as I pick up my StormDuos, I want to pick them up going through the same direction each time. So I'm going to start by picking up my StormDuo. And if you think of it like a little birdie here, I'm going to go through like the back of the head and come out the front. So I'm going to pick the first StormDuo up, and I'm going to go through the open hole here. And again, both times I went through that StormDuo through the hole, I went from the back of the head to the front, and then on the other side, I did the same thing where I went from the back of the head to the front. Now I'm going to pick up another StormDuo, and again, I'm going through this in the same way, where I'm going through the back of the head, or the curved side, if you want to think of it as like the side that's curving outward, and going through it so that my needle and thread is coming out on the side, sort of under the beak there. And as I let this drop down, you'll see that it'll nestle next to the previous StormDuo. And I'm going to go through this open hole again, or the open hole on this bead. Again, pick up your StormDuo, same direction, so go through that from the back of the head to the front, and through the next hole. And you can start to see the pattern now that we have 3 beads, where we're going to have a top row of StormDuos and a bottom row of StormDuos that are offset from each other. So they'll kind of climb up, they'll sort of climb up or down the bracelet. And I'm just going to continue doing this the whole length of my bracelet. So however long I want this to be, I'm going to continue picking up StormDuos in this way. You can see I've got a few more on here. And so yours should look something like this, where you've got a couple here on the top and you've got some here on the bottom. With the top row, your StormDuos facing the same direction and your bottom row of StormDuos facing the same direction. So continue this until you get to the length you need for the beaded portion of your bracelet. You want to also consider the clasp you're using. So if you're using a clasp that's going to take up a lot of room, something bigger, you want to just kind of deduct that from the size of the full length of your bracelet. If you're using something really dainty, then of course you need to subtract a little bit less, but it's good to just think about what you're going to use at the beginning so that you can factor that in as you're making this length. So let's go ahead and continue this, and we'll get to the full length that we need, and then we'll move on to doing something a little bit more fun with this.
Want a monthly dose of inspiration while stocking up on your beading supplies? PotomacBeads Treasure Box is a monthly subscription where you can save up to 60% off new and exciting materials. Every month, you'll receive an assortment of unique and exclusive beads in a variety of colors and shapes. Whether you're a beginner or an accomplished beader, the Treasure Box will inspire you to create unique projects for yourself and to gift to others. Unleash your creativity with a Treasure Box subscription. Visit PotomacBeads.com/subscriptions today, or click on the link below in the description to get links to get back to our website.
Once you've completed this backbone for your bracelet and you've made it the full length that you need, we're going to add on to it here with some StormDuos, a different color. You can do something contrasting or something similar. You can use the same color if you want, but I think it's a little bit more interesting if you have a different color. And we also have those 4mm pearls. So here I am at the end of my bracelet coming out of my StormDuo. And I'm going to go through my StormDuo. I'm going to kind of backtrack in my project and go through the other hole there in that same StormDuo where I'm coming out. And so now as I do that, I'm coming out here through the second hole here of my very end StormDuo. So I'm going to pick up now one pearl, and I'm going to work this design. I'm going to kind of snake back and forth through my backbone here. So I'm going to start out by picking up a pearl, and I'm going to skip over this little gap here, and I'm going to go through my StormDuo and the StormDuo on the other side. So I'm going a bit sort of diagonally through these StormDuos. And as I do this, the pearl will sort of nestle into that little cup formed by the StormDuos. And now I'm coming out here on the other side. And here I'm going to start to pick up my StormDuos. And again, I'm going to pick up my StormDuos the same way, and I'm going to pick up 3 of them. So I'm picking up 1, 2, 3 StormDuos, all facing the same direction. And we're going to kind of jump over this little gap here between my StormDuos on the side and go down through the next StormDuo and the hole in the StormDuo directly below. I'll keep these out of the way. And so now what I've done here is where I added the pearl on this side, I added a little fan of 3 StormDuos on this side. I'm going to repeat that, and I'm going to pick up another group of StormDuos, and again picking them up the same way. So I'm always going from sort of the back of the bird to the front. And then through my next StormDuo and the StormDuo right below. And you just want to get these to sit the way that you want them there. It can be a little bit tricky with them wanting to kind of flop around. So I've got a pearl, and then I've got a nice little fan of StormDuos and a nice little fan of StormDuos below. I'm going to pick up another pearl and jump over to the next StormDuo here on the top and go through the StormDuo right below it. And I'm going to do this 2 more times here. Pick up a pearl, jump over to the next StormDuo on this side, and go through the StormDuo right above it. So I'm adding these pearls, just nestling them in there. And I'm going to do this one more time and pick up one pearl and go down through the next StormDuo and the hole in the StormDuo right below. And now after I have 3 pearls, I'm ready to work with my StormDuos again. And I'm going to repeat this. So I'm going to pick up my 3 StormDuos and then my 3 StormDuos over here. And then I'm going to do a pearl 1, 2, 3 times. So you're just going to repeat this pattern until you get to the end of your piece. So I'm going to continue with this and I'll show you what that looks like once I get down to the end of down to the end here towards my stop bead. So I've done quite a bit here. I'm almost to the end. And I wanted to mention here before I got too much further in the video that the base here that you created, this backbone, the pattern really works best when you have a multiple of 5 plus 1. So I have 36 StormDuos here, and so you can do any kind of multiple of 5 plus 1. So my multiple of 5 being 35, and then I've got 1 extra. So that's how the pattern tends to work best, because you've got sort of 5 StormDuos that you need for each sort of repetitive section. So I would recommend that. Do some sort of multiple of 5, and then you're going to need an extra one there on the end. So here I am now, and I'm almost to the end. You can see here I'm in position here to add a few more StormDuos. So I'll pick up some StormDuos here and go through the backbone here, as I like to call it. And now I just need 1 more pearl. And that ends my pattern at the same place that I started it. That ends my pattern here at the same place that I started it on the other side, but it's just kind of, this pearl is facing up, this pearl here is facing down. So go ahead and get to this point. And again, like I said, but multiples of 5 are going to work best for you. That'll get you to stop and start the pattern where I am. And then you're just going to need an extra one there for the end. Now we're going to start working with our 15-0 seed beads. And coming out here at the end, and you can see here I'm at the second to last StormDuo. So I'm going to pick up a few seed beads, about 3 or 4, and I'm going to go through the StormDuo here at the very end through that last hole, and it should be for you that hole where your stop bead is. And again, I'm going to pick up a few seed beads here, about 4 should do that for you. You're just going to pick up enough to kind of fill this gap between the hole where your thread is coming out and the pearl. So 4 is going to work for me with these Azuki seed beads. Sometimes sizing with seed beads can be a little bit different, even though they are the same size. The way that they're manufactured can be slightly different. So if you need 3 seed beads or you need 5 seed beads, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just using different manufacturers, different brands. They can slightly manufacture them slightly differently. So just if that 4 doesn't work for you, you don't have the wrong seed bead, probably. Just make that fit in there. Yeah. And then here we go. So now we've got this taken care of here at the end where we have our 4 seed beads on either side, and that just helps us get through that pearl and where we need to be to kind of start the our adding our seed beads and our pattern here. So coming out of the pearl, I'm going to pick up 2 seed beads. You can also pick up 1 11-0, but instead of using 2 different size seed beads, I'm just going to use 1. So I'm just going to pick up the 2 seed beads here. So two 15-0s. And go through that open hole here in my StormDuo. I'm going to pick up 3 of my 15-0s. And now I'm going to go through the bottom or the inside hole here of the next StormDuo. Pick up 3 15-0s. Go through the top hole here, the open hole, in the same StormDuo. Pick up 2 15-0s. And now what I'm doing here is I'm going through this first group of 3 that I picked up on the inside of the StormDuo. I'm going down through only the 15-0 closest to the inside of the project, closest to the hole, the bottom hole of the StormDuo that I'm coming out of. And as I pull that, you'll see that I've sort of created a little V of 15-0s. I'm going to go down through that bead and continue and go through the hole in that center StormDuo. I'm going to go up through just the first 15-0 closest to the hole in the StormDuo and pick up 2 15-0s and go through this last StormDuo, go through that top hole. And you can see once I do that, that now in between my StormDuos here, I've created a little bit of a decoration in there, kind of filling in those V's, those gaps with some little V's of 15-0 seed beads. So coming out of that top hole of my StormDuo, I'm going to pick up 2 15-0s and go through my pearl. And now I'm back at the beginning, here where I started. I'm going to pick up 2 15-0s and go through my StormDuo and repeat the steps that I just did here with this group of 3 StormDuos to add the seed beads in between those. So we'll do that, and then we'll move on to this next little section where we have the pearls and we don't have the StormDuos. So here you can see my first 2 little StormDuo fans, and they have their little V shapes filled in there. Now, after going through my first fan and my second fan here, I've got a little gap here where I have to go from one pearl to the other. And for this, all I'm going to do is pick up some 15-0s just to fill in that gap. 5 15-0s should do it. So coming out of one pearl, you're just going to pick up 5 15-0s and then pass through the next. Oh, but I think I might have, oops, I picked up 6. So if your pearls or your beads are feeling like they're getting bunched up, just adjust that. So I think it accidentally picked up 6. So you can see that's going to lay nice and flat, not bunched up, just a nice even straight line there between those pearls. And now I'm ready to pick up and start again with my fan. So you're going to do that all along the side here until you've got all your fans filled in and the little gaps here between your pearls. Once we get to the end here and we've got the one side completed with our seed beads, we're going to work at the very end here and we can add one side of our clasp on. So here I'm coming out of my StormDuo and I'm going to pick up a couple of my 15-0 seed beads and go through my StormDuo. I'm going to go through both StormDuos here. And pull that through. And I'm going to pick up a few more a few more of my seed beads and go through the StormDuo here at the very end. And now I'm in position here where I can start to add my clasp. Now you can add the clasp in a couple different ways. This is how I like to add it so that it sits flush, it sits flat with the bracelet. I'm going to pick up 2 or 3 of my 15-0 seed beads, and then I'm going to go through the loop on the clasp. And then I'm going to go back through a few those seed beads that I picked up and through the StormDuo. And as you do this, you want to make sure that you keep any slack in your thread out of there. So you want to make sure you don't have any slack in your thread. So now here coming on the other side of the StormDuo, I'm going to pick up a few of my 15-0s and go through the loop in my clasp again. And down through those 3 seed beads. So I'm actually attaching directly to my clasp instead of using a wire guard. So depending on what clasp you're using, a wire guard may be helpful, or it may kind of flip your clasp so that it's going the other direction. And I would reinforce this here, so I'd go through my 15-0s again and around my clasp. This works best if you have a thinner thread, like a size 5 or a 6, because you just don't want to you want to make sure that you're not going to bust your 15-0s here as you go through. And if you do have a little bit of trouble pulling it through your needle, because you're having a little bit of a hard time gripping it here, just grab a plier, give that a little pull, and there we go. So that's how I like to attach a clasp without using a wire guard. And I think it just makes for a nice tighter design here at the end. And it just kind of keeps things nice and close together, and it keeps your clasp flush and in line with the piece that you're working on. So now here I'm going to go to the other side. And now here I'm in position to continue working on this side where I haven't added any of my seed beads yet. So I'm coming out here in my StormDuo I can go through these 3 seed beads. And you can see here that I have a little gap here where I don't have any seed beads. And I want to try to add some seed beads to this whole end just to kind of cinch everything together and to make a nice little border of 15 O's around the end. So before adding the 15 O's down the length here, I'm going to go through this StormDuo again. And I'm going just through the one StormDuo. I'm not actually passing through the StormDuo below it. I'm going to pick a couple 15 O's up, and I'm going to pass through those seed beads here that are connecting to my clasp. And again, it's getting a little bit tight here, so I'm just going to grip this with my pliers and pull that through. And I'm going to go over to the other side here and go down through the 15 O's on the other side of the StormDuo. And so in this way, I'm just pulling those 15 O's together so that I don't see the gaps between them, and pulling those together so it just puts a nice little border on that last StormDuo. And now at this point, I can continue on here, and I can continue with the same pattern that I did on the other side here. So I'm coming out of my StormDuo here. Looks like I might need 1/15 here to reach my pearl. There you go, and fill that little gap in. And now here, again, starting with the pattern on the other side, I'm going to pick up 2 15 O's, go through my first StormDuo here, and repeat the pattern that I followed on this side. So we're going to continue here and get all the way to the other end, and we'll affix the other side of the clasp. So you can see here that I have now come down the other side of the bracelet, filling in the seed beads. So here at the very end, I'm coming out through this last StormDuo here in this little fan. And what I'm going to do here, I'm on the end with my stop bead, so I'm going to take this stop bead off. I'm going to pick up just a 1/15 and then connect to the 3, or these are 4, connect to the 4 15 O's here at the end. And so then that will just kind of bring everything together and connect it. And now I'm going to repeat the same steps I did on the other side to connect to the other side here of my clasp. So I'm going to pick up a few of my 15 O seed beads here and bring this clasp around. I like to keep the clasp together, the 2 pieces together, because then it's easier for you to tell or to make sure that you are getting this connected and oriented the right way. And back through those 3 seed beads and through the end of the StormDuo. Pick up another 3 seed beads and through the other hole here in my little hole, or the loop here in my clasp, and then back through the 3 seed beads. And now here we just want to close up the gaps between the seed beads. So I'm going to pass through the next few seed beads. go through the hole in my StormDuo. Both of them actually go through both StormDuos here. And coming out on the other side, go up through my StormDuos, going towards my clasp. And if you want to reinforce this, you can go ahead while you're here. Go ahead and take your thread through the clasp again, keeping that tail thread out of the way. And down the seed beads. So all I've done there is just ran through all those seed beads at the end to just kind of pull them closer together. And now at this point, I'm ready to just take my thread tails and I can tie them together. If I get them to a point where they meet up, I can tie them together, or I can tie them separately and just burn those down. And at this point, there's no right or wrong or real pattern. You just want to make sure that you're taking your thread through your beads, following thread paths that you have here that already exist to hide your thread as best as possible. So my tail thread is, where is it? It's over here. So if I can pass through these seed beads one more time. Oh, need a little help with that with my pliers. Oops. Got my thread around my project here. Well, at least it waited till the last clip. At least it waited to the last clip to get all jumbled. Okay, so here we go. And then preferably on the back here, I'll tie these ends together and burn them off. Just a couple overhand knots here. And if you have a thread that blends well with your design, like I have the blue thread here, so the blue looks really nice and blends in very well with grays and blues. So now they've got that tied off, I'll burn that down, and then my piece will be complete.